Hey everybody, happy Friday. Welcome to Coffee Chat. We are here in the midst of storms. Luckily, it did hold out a little bit because Evie and Andrew's school was having field day today. However, Andrew has a fever and is upstairs in bed because we're just the house of sickness this past. It's laughable at this point, but yes, we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go. But Evie is doing better today. She is at school, but she did miss multiple days of school. And Andrew is now sick as well. So it's just been like 1 week of sickness, 1 week of school, 1 week of sickness, 1 week of school. So we're hanging in there as best we can. I know, more fever. It's like I booked a 3-day writing retreat and I was so excited, made it one night and then had to come home to be with the kids because of Evie and then Andrew also. And now, I went to volunteer most of the day at field day today. That's why my hair looks the way it does. Like it's not the worst, but it started raining. So I'm like partially rained on. I'm like, well, we'll just throw on a hat and some red earrings and it'll be fine. But we have lost power a couple of times. So if we lose power, I will try my best to be back. And if not, then I will see you all next week. But yeah, I mean, I think this is the thing too, is like anytime I talk, I hate to even mention that we're sick because someone's going to say, you should take better care of your health. You should take better care of your kids. You should use more bleach in your house. It's like, we take vitamins. We take all the vitamins. My kids don't eat junk food. I clean my house. It's just nothing that we can control. Sometimes it's just going to be out of your control when people are getting sick, especially when you have a kid in preschool who grew up during the pandemic and literally was in a bubble for 2 years of their life. So we're just, we do the best we can. And I don't know anything else that we could add to our regime, to keep everybody healthy. But yeah, George has still been doing fine. George still like hangs out with allergy problems, but George is also carnivore. So that makes he keeps saying like, we should all be carnivore. Like, I don't know if I could eat meat all the time. I don't know if I could do that. I don't know that really fits me for sure. But George has managed to stay healthy. But then again, it's also like when the kids are sick, it's me they want to lay on, not him. So that could be part of it too. But I feel like at every turn, every time I keep trying to say, okay, I'm going to hustle, I'm going to push, I'm going to force myself, I'm going to get this done, like this is the timeline, and I keep trying to force it just ends up where something else stands in the way. And I think that over and over, the universe just keeps telling me it's okay to slow down. You don't have to prove your worth. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. You don't have to be on any kind of timeline. You don't have to rush. You're not going to miss your chance. And it's like really been a lesson in surrender and acceptance and just kind of moving through this period of time in a way that I can have as much grace for myself and my family as possible. But it is hard when you share your life on the internet because, I've had all kinds of accusations about not being a good mom and stuff like that. And I'm just like, y'all, I'm doing the best I can. And, if you do have some kind of miracle thing that you can do for your kids that keeps them from getting sick, let me know. But otherwise, we're doing everything we can. And this is so true, Allie, is like we do sometimes. Well, I don't know that everybody does this, but I do think that for those of us that are high achieving and those of us that have been like, I call myself a productivity junkie. Like I am a high achiever. I love that thrill of like, type A personality, I guess. It's like I was like, even as a child, like I have always loved to get in there and be like in every little club, part of the dance team, part of the band. Like I was in all the different things that I could be as a kid because I just have always loved being like really busy and being in things. But I think the shadow side to that, the difficult side to that is that sometimes when you are someone who is really active and productive is you can begin to attach your own sense of self-worth to whether or not you're performing, of like, okay, well, what are my numbers looking like? What's my income looking like? How many followers did I get? How did I show up? Oh my gosh, that is so sweet. Kathy, thank you for that. Treat yourself to a Starbucks next time you're out. Thank you for that. That was very, very sweet. And I do feel like it is a lesson for me too, of just being like, okay, like I don't have to tie, like, my self-worth is still here, whether or not I show up for every coffee chat, whether or not I write books fast enough, whether I, am writing 10,000 words on a writing retreat or have to come home early. But it is also emotionally difficult sometimes when you're somebody who likes to go, 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 to have to slow down. But I feel like that's been the recurring lesson lately, is just like slow down and enjoy the season that you're in, and just like, you're doing the best you can. But I definitely feel like, I feel like more so than probably the past 7 years, I have felt like I needed, like, every time I keep trying to push a little bit harder, the universe is saying, "You need a break, you need a break, you need a break." So I'm trying my very best. And it's a hard lesson when society tells us something else, because I feel like we're trained, like, especially when you're an online entrepreneur or you have like social media as part of your business, or there's any kind of like numbers or other things like that. We are definitely trained to judge ourselves based on how many books did you sell? How many books did you produce? How productive have you been? How many new followers do you have? And it can be difficult to sort of unhook yourself from that need to constantly be growing momentum and moving forward in those numbers. And it can be hard because society says, oh, you're better if you have 1 million followers, or you are better if you're producing 12 reels or 12 new videos. But it's not true, right? It's like there's no amount of followers that makes you better than anyone else. Like, it's just a matter of whether or not you're, you know, living your life in an authentic way. And I think that is part of the lessons that I'm meant to learn right now, is authenticity has always been important to me, like vulnerability, authenticity, being honest about who I am. And sometimes that is painful, but at the same time, it's just part of my like personal code. And so when things get tough, it feels like, how do I authentically share that when I feel like the people around me need to hear uplifting things, but I'm going through a more difficult time? So I feel like April has been, in particular, a time of low energy for me and low motivation, between just being hit with the sicknesses over and over, being not as productive as I've wanted to be. But it also has been really nice in a lot of ways, because I have been getting back, like I said, to reading and to being and playing outside, and kind of working on cleaning the house, and just different things like that have been really nice. So, hey, Jess. So Joshi Curran is going to be reading, hopefully this month, The Disappearance of Vanessa Shaw. And I follow your channel pretty religiously. I think I watch every single one of your videos, and it's such a like weird moment. I mean, it might be weirder if we didn't know each other, but it's just strange to be like, there's someone filling out their book bullet journal and my book is there. It just makes me smile every time. So thank you for reading Disappearance of Vanessa Shaw. I hope you love it. And I hope you get to it, because Jess is reading like 20 books. But if you guys have wanted to do any kind of reading challenge for the month of May, you can go to Joshi Corin's channel, because she and some of her friends are doing a Goober readathon this month, and it is really, really fun. I'm going to be participating. I have this like desire to set up a reading bullet journal, even though I have tried twice to set up a reading bullet journal and I just don't stick with it. I really want to do it, because when I see other people with really beautiful reading journals, let me know in the comments if you have a reading journal or not. Yeah, Goober Ghosty, who's doing it? Let me know who else is doing it. I cannot read like 20 books this month, but I would like to read at least 4 or 6 or whatever. Yeah, so Andrew lives close to me. It is definitely storming here, so stay safe. But I do have good news that they fixed our roof yesterday. Like, when was that? Over a month ago that part of our roof got literally torn off. Yeah, they fixed our roof. So that was very exciting. But it was hard because both kids were homesick yesterday and they started banging on the roof at 7 a.m. And I was like, well, we're just going to huddle together downstairs and try to ignore the noise. So that was interesting, but at least the rain held off long enough for some of the kids to enjoy field day today. So that was fun. Ghosty Plan says not doing a whole notebook, but a TN insert. So, okay. I have an insert for a reading journal because I take forever to read a book. I love it. I love it. I am officially starting in. I finished Red Queen, which was excellent. And I do want to read the rest of that series, but I am starting in on Casey Ezel's Mage Light, which comes out on May 6th. Casey is part of our Hardy / Broken Chapter Society membership. And this is a fantasy novel that is a reverse harem. And I am so excited, or why choose, I guess is kind of what people say now, but it is not super sexy. It's just more like romancy, but also very fantasy. So a lot of good world building and fighting and things like that. So if you're looking for a good fantasy read, Mage Light is my next read. And then I will be reading Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes next. So I need to go through the Goober Readathon like prompts and figure out how that fits. Maybe this could be like I don't know, a book that someone recommended or sent to me or something. I don't know. That cover is fantastic. It's incredible. So gorgeous. And I was telling her, it reminds me of like EverQuest or games. So it just like brings back, and the story grabs you right from the first chapter. I'm already a couple chapters in. So good. Lorelai reminds me of the main character in Deep Dark Secrets. Thank you for mentioning that book too, by the way, because that might be my next release, because I have been working behind the scenes on rewriting Deep Dark Secrets to be a standalone instead of the beginning of a trilogy. So if you've read that book, you might enjoy some of the changes, but most of it is staying the same. But I did get the cover artist that made the cover for Vanessa Shaw also made a cover for Deep Dark Secrets that is very similar, but is a teal color. So that'll be coming out soon. Update on A Mirror of Shadows, which if you missed it last week, we announced the title of the new series, which is The Shadow Games. If you missed the trailer of the cover, or not cover, I haven't revealed the cover yet, but the series title reveal for A Mirror of Shadows, which is The Shadow Games. You can head to my channel and there is a YouTube short here that has that trailer if you want to check it out. Thank you, Crystal. 1 Sarra Cannon membership. I had hoped upon hope to finish the entirety of A Mirror of Shadows this month, but due to all the sickness, like I said, I didn't get it done, but I did get over 20,000 words written this month, which feels really good. And I'll tell you the other exciting thing is that as I've been working on The Shadow Games, which technically takes place in like 20 years before Harper comes to Peachville for the first time, the ideas of this series have spawned so much ideas for the final book of the Shadow Demon saga. So there is more of a spark for my story going on than has been in a very, very long time. Because many of you know, I was working on the final book of the Shadow Demon saga for a while. And then we were moving and there was a lot of internet drama going on and COVID and other things. And I just could not get focused. So that's when I switched to working on Disappearance of Vanessa Shaw, which I thought was going to be something that took me like, I can finish this real quick. Thank you, Kayla. Congrats to whoever is winning the memberships. Thank you for giving those memberships, you guys. I thought it was going to be fast. Took me like 2-something years to write, but it was worth it. If you haven't read The Disappearance of Vanessa Shaw, go grab that book. It is a standalone. So I have not, like, even though I've been trying to think of ideas for book 12, there has been a block in my head of like, I just can't get book 12 to come together. And just over the past couple of months of working on A Mirror of Shadows, all the ideas that I've needed for book 12 have been coming together too. So I am feeling very, very excited for that. Angela says, I lost sleep to read Disappearance of Vanessa Shaw, worth every minute. Yay, top 5 books ever. Thank you so much. That's so fun. Oh, yeah, it looks like Emily won. So that's so exciting. So I originally was like, oh, we're going to start reading this book super fast. But I think right now I have to release any kind of timeline because I don't know when, but I think I've mentioned this before. And also before I just keep rambling, I don't have a topic for today. As you can see, it just says Friday Coffee Chat. So if you have any questions, literally ask me anything. We can do an AMA. There are 3 questions that have been sitting here since like March in the Discord. So I will address those. But if you have any other questions, literally about writing, manifesting, family, like anything, go ahead and ask. I am here for just the chat. Joe says it's one of my favorite books. Thank you guys. It's like, it's so worth it to take the time to do something right. And for me, intuition is a big thing. And it's like, I kept feeling like, nope, this isn't right. This isn't right. And I think in some ways, when I first started writing was so much easier, even though I didn't know what I was doing. Because I was blissfully ignorant and it was like, oh, I'm just telling a story and it's good. But then as you get further into the writing process and you become a better writer, to me, my writing has become so much harder because I'm not willing to like, I need it to be perfect, right? It needs to be perfect. And there is no perfect. It doesn't exist. And so I'm having to pull myself back from that. And that's what's been happening with The Mirror of Shadows is I start it and then I'm like, oh, I don't love the way that started. Let me try again. Let me try again. Let me try again. So I've had to sort of pull myself back from perfectionism and say, is it good enough? Okay, let's keep moving. But Disappearance of Vanessa Shaw, it's like I put the time in until it felt that's why when I was telling you guys that I crawled into bed when I was finishing reading it for the last time, I was literally sobbing and George was like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I think I actually did it." And it doesn't mean that that book is perfect because that doesn't exist, but it was the very best I could do in that moment. And hopefully 5 years from now, I'll think, "Oh, I could have done better." But for me, I knew it was the best I could do, and that felt good. And now I feel like I want to carry that through to everything I'm working on. And I think that has been part of the stress of book 12 too, is like it has to be the most epic finale of all time. And it just can't be, right? It's like kind of takes some of the pressure off, but it's hard. It's hard to do that. All right, let's see. Oh, I love this. Casey says it reminded me of old school Christopher Pike books, which were my favorite. Which was so my inspiration is like Christopher Pike meets my favorite games like Until Dawn, and let's just put that into a modern teen thriller, and that feels really good. Thanks for saying that. Are you going to do a notebook challenge? Yes, we skipped the notebook challenge in April due to all the illnesses and getting behind, but there will be a May notebook challenge, and I will be sharing my new notebook that I bought for myself. That is a huge splurge, massive splurge, but I can't use it until after I finish A Mirror of Shadows, but I'm going to share that in the notebook challenge. Just for funsies, what color purple is your favorite? Dark, light, or in the middle? I mean, Angela, that's a hard question. Like I think when I'm looking around at the purples, I tend to surround myself with it's like these colors. So I love this color too, but like I think the light sort of lilac purple is probably my favorite. I don't know. I love it. I love purple. Phoebe says, as you know, I'm a mood reader writer, so I never finish anything. Any tips? You don't finish reading either. Is that what you mean? Like you don't finish reading books and you don't finish? I have some tips because let me tell you, I just finished recording a video for Heart Breathings that'll go up as soon as I edit it today or tomorrow. I'm going to get back to, instead of trying to do vlogs, which have just been really hard, we're going to go back to some old school Heart Breathings content of series. And my next series that hopefully will be starting next week is how to finish your book, how to finish your book. And it's going to be filled with tips. And there will be a free download called the Finish Your Book Toolkit. So lots of tips coming on that soon. But just as okay, I'll start it today. Let me know. But then if you don't like it, just pretend you did. I was like, okay, I'm loving seeing Jess that she's going to read it, but does that mean she's going to put a review up? No pressure, but like, if it's a 1-star read for you, just pretend it wasn't. Just be like, oh, I never got to that book. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. But if you're never finishing the books or the like reading or the writing of books, it's so hard because you got to get to the root of really why. And maybe it's because you're a mood reader, but maybe it's also because there's some other kind of thing going on there about fear of finishing. And then maybe when it comes to the books, it's because if it's actually like reading, it's because you're not reading stuff that you really, really enjoy reading. But I'd have to just sit and talk to you about it because I don't know all the details. But looking for an update on the website. So if you haven't heard this, some of you that are not in Publish and Thrive may not know this, but with my friends Becky and Jeremy, we are launching a website and an email service for authors. And it was almost ready in March, but then I didn't like the templates, so I had them change everything. So they have changed all the templates. I just approved them. So we just have to pick a date to launch it. So definitely coming in the month of May. And you can choose whether you just want the website or if you want the website and the email service, but it's the cool thing about it is it's a WordPress website. So if you want to attach a Shopify store or something like that later, you can always do that to have your own direct store. But it's also like a template for authors. So it has a series page, a books page, and all that stuff that makes it so easy. And all you have to do is just add your colors, add your books, add your blurb, and it makes your website so easy. But the design is really nice and it's going to be great. So if you're interested in that, launching to Publish and Thrive students first this month and then to everybody after. So it's coming. All right. Allie says, I set one 90-day goal for my business only to realize it's no longer aligned with what I want. Do I make a new goal using HB90? I would, especially because it's a new month and you still have 2 months left of this quarter. I would make a new goal. If it's not aligned, then just say, okay. And I would not take a lot of time. Like I wouldn't say, okay, go through the entire planning process again. I would just think either drop that goal and focus on whatever else you had planned, or say, okay, if I drop that goal, how much time does that open up for me? Okay, if it's 100 task blocks, let me plan a new goal or work, getting through some of the like catch up kind of life tasks. But I would replan, but I would give myself a deadline and say, I need to be replanned by Monday so that you don't stick to it. Ice cream or cupcakes? I mean, both. What? Why do I have to choose? Cupcakes for sure. Cupcakes 100% more than ice cream. But I probably eat ice cream more often because we often will go to Brahms on Sunday nights and get ice cream. I don't know if Brahms is just specifically a Texas thing, but is like the creamiest ice cream ever. It's so delicious. Julie says, I agonize over every little detail more than I used to. Yeah, I agree. Okay, question answered that one already. Let's keep moving. Samantha's here. I love it. What software do you use for making your planners and workbooks? I use Adobe InDesign. And originally I was using Word when it was just for my own use. I always used Word, but there's so many things you can't do in Word, or I didn't know how to do it. And so I taught myself InDesign back in 2018 and I love it. Now, sometimes when I do, like I made like a manifesting workbook for you guys like last weekend or something. I use Canva for that, but most of them I do in InDesign. All the HB90 stuff is InDesign. Lorraine, I feel I have so much to learn on craft. I'm stuck deciding between practicing only or practicing while I'm publishing. What do you recommend? You know, if I had waited until I knew everything there was to know about craft, I probably still wouldn't be published. So for me, it was the best decision for me was just to practice while I published. Just say, okay, I'm going to write the best book I can today and focus on the joy and the excitement of telling a story I want to tell. And I'll just get better and better as I go. And there are times that I look back at like Beautiful Demons and I think, oh, there's so much that I would change now, but I'm never going to go back and re-edit those because it's the cool thing about it is you can clearly just reading that one series from book 1 to 11 and then hopefully book 12, you can see my growth as an author and it becomes like almost like a testimony to my own growth throughout that book, which also is a parallel to Harper's growth throughout that whole series. So I say learn enough to finish a book and be proud of it, but don't worry about or wait for you to know every single thing about craft. I think that most of us that have been reading or consuming stories like games, movies, TV shows, we've all been doing this our whole lives. And so there's this intuitive, innate storyteller inside you anyway. And you know how to tell a story. It's just the technical side of the craft sometimes takes time to learn or wrap your head around. So just do the best you can, but tell a story you want to tell and don't worry about it being perfect or waiting until you know everything you need to know because you'll just never finish, right? You'll never finish learning. So Casey's book is distributed by Simon & Schuster. Question, which way to purchase will give Casey the most value? It's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, BAM, Bookshop, Target, Walmart. Does it matter? That's a good question. I mean, I don't know if Casey is hoping to like hit the New York Times with this or not. I would love to see that. Let's all make that happen. So some people say that there are some places that you can buy it that are going to give it more juice for that. But I don't know those details because I've never been traditionally published. If Casey is here, you can tell us where you would prefer people to buy it. But my answer would be anywhere you buy it is going to be helpful and probably more helpful if you buy it in hardcover than if you buy it in ebook. But any purchase is a valuable purchase, but it's very sweet of you to think about it. Oh, I was watching one of your old videos and you and Andrew are dancing at the end. Was that the one about bullying? Because we danced so much at that and he was so little and now he's going to be 13, you guys. It's so crazy. Okay, let's keep going. Purple. Stop purchasing art supplies. Can you address Inkers Con and your thoughts about it? Yeah. And I have a code too. So Inkers Con, for those of you that don't know, is usually a hybrid event. There is usually an in-person event here in Dallas that's usually like a 3-day event. And then all of those recordings go into the digital event, which is also more live. It's usually like a 3-week event where you get networking opportunities, co-writing, Q&As, classes like workshops and things like that. But this year they're not doing an in-person event. I'm not sure why. I don't know if Alessandra has talked about that, but it is truly one of the best online conferences that you can get for indie authors. It is filled with, like, they do such a good job making sure, like Elena Johnson, Becca Syme, me, I'm not speaking this year, but hopefully I'm one of the ones that would be up there. But it's like authors that have run Kickstarters, authors that are really successful on TikTok. There's a lot of variety in learning about the different ways that authors are making money. And I think that is super helpful. But there's also mindset stuff. There's going to be discussions on basically marketing, mindset, craft, just about everything. I know there are many of you here that have done Inkers Con before as well. I think it's one of the best online things that you can do. And because they're only doing it online this year, I think it'll probably be even more valuable than it has been in the past because they're putting all of their attention on the digital side of it. So Inkers Con is $250, $249. But if you use code Sarah25, like Sarah in 2025, Sarah 2025, you can get $50 off. I know there are other affiliates who have code too, so you can use any of them, but I do highly recommend it. I sign up for it every year, and you get access to all the recordings for the next year. So highly recommend. Yay. I know I'm behind. It's like I'm 10 minutes behind on comments. Uh, uh, uh. All right. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Did you film your retreat? I mean, I did. However, I only made it one day of the retreat and then had to come home. So I probably will not edit and put that out there because it's like, who wants to see a retreat where you talk about all your goals and then you're like, and now I'm going home to be with a sick child. So I filmed it and then didn't really get to finish it. So what I'm hoping is maybe we can do another retreat, but I feel like trying to do the retreats and vlogs has just not been working out for me so far this year. So I had a good one with my friend Megan. So maybe I'll see if Megan can do another one with me. But for now, I'm not planning to post that one. It was very sad. Oh, that's so good. Dabble had a good workshop on imposter syndrome, identifying some of my perfectionist issues. Do you think that's part of what's holding you back? Probably. We're going to talk about that coming up. Hey, Soul, how are you? More than 200 here, but only 19 likes. Come on, come on. I think part of why that happens, because raise your hand if you're watching me on a TV or somewhere where it's harder to find the like button, because I do that a lot too. Hey, Sarah, when you plan a series, do you try and plot all major plot points for each book like Mirror of Shadows, or did you get as far as you can and let inspiration story take it as you go, like Shadow Demon Saga? So when I am planning a series, now part of why a Mirror of Shadows or Shadow Games is a little bit different is because I know the events of this lead into the Shadow Demon Saga, and I need for them, I don't want to give spoilers, right? I'm trying to think, how do I say this? There are things that will happen in this series that affect the other series. And like I said, you won't have to have read them, but just for people who do read them, it adds a lot of depth to the world. So I need to know how this series ends because it's happening before the events of the other series. And I needed to plan that. So that's why this one is a little bit different. But for the most part, I have found that when I have tried to plot out multiple books in a series, by the time I get done with the first book, I'm already so off of what I originally planned that all the time I spent trying to forward plan was just wasted anyway. And so typically what I do is I will just plot this book, and then I will have a little bit of a thought of what's coming up next or what the big overarching part of the series is. So for example, one of the big questions over the course of the first 6 books of the Shadow Demon Saga is what happened really to Harper's mother, right? And so that was something that was in my mind, that as I'm plotting through those books, I'm thinking about that subplot, but that's not really the main plot of the series. I was also thinking, once I got to book 4, and I started thinking, oh, we might be moving into the shadow world itself and doing cross-world fiction, which is really cool. And there might be a portal. So what's that going to look like? And I started thinking ahead. So in that way, I will think of certain plot elements that will affect future books, but I don't go through and say, what's the end of Act 1 climax? What's the doorway? What's the midpoint of the next book? I'm just focused on the major plot points of the current book. And then I think about those certain subplots or story threads that I need to carry through further. And I will make notes about those as I go, so that I can do what we call plants and reveals. So I might say, oh, I need to make sure that this portal gets put in here this way, or that I introduce this shifter or this character because I know they're going to be important later, but I don't micro plot, if that makes sense. But there are other people who do, so there's no right or wrong way to do it. I feel hungry. I'm suddenly like, did I actually eat today? But I did. What causes me fear of finishing is I have no idea what comes next. I have no experience, and it scares me to send out my novel to ask some unknown person, like, what if they hate it? Yeah, that's very, very relatable. And I think that one thing that helped me with this a lot was having a critique group earlier on, like before I finished the book. So many of you know JD Robinson. She does sprints for the Heart Breathings writing community. She was one of my first critique partners, her and a lady named Erica Reeder. And then we added on a guy named Alok. And that was our like core group of people. I did have a critique group before that I met through RWA, but those two women, even though they were super nice, did not write anything like fantasy or YA. They wrote one wrote historical romance and one wrote very, very sexy, like Harlequin romantic suspense. And that can be fine too, to work with people that are outside your genre. But it just, once I got into writing like zombies and stuff, they weren't interested in my stories. And so they just weren't valuable critique partners because they didn't really want to read what I was writing. So I met Jen through, this is kind of a funny story, but she was going to do NaNoWriMo, and I saw on the NaNoWriMo forum she had posted a vlog. So she had vlogs or YouTube before I did, but I was like, oh, this person's really cool. I like her. And once we got to know each other through in-person writing events in the Raleigh area, we said, let's do some critique grouping together. So what was helpful was having somebody every single week that I would say, here's a chapter, and they would read it and critique it. So that way it got rid of that fear of letting someone else read it, or it just built up my confidence, because once they were saying, oh, this is getting better, this is really good, I knew I had something that didn't totally suck that I could trust to send out to other people. So if you can find people that you can start critiquing with and sharing chapters with earlier on in the process, it can be really helpful. But it can also be harmful if you end up with a group that doesn't like your writing. Like, for example, the person that I used to critique group with that wrote historical, even when I had written a book for Harlequin, which many of you know, I had written a book that I submitted to Harlequin that was a contemporary romance. It was like a fake engagement kind of romance. She wrote the meanest things in the comments, like, this is the dumbest heroine I've ever seen, or like, who writes like this, and stuff in the margins. This was back when we used to actually print stuff out and write in red pen. Like back in the day. And that was harmful. It was really hurtful to me. So I should have probably left that group sooner than I did. And once you find a group that you really jive with, it's so much better. Because like with Jen, for example, if she didn't like something, she'd be like, oh, I don't know, this description isn't resonating with me. Why don't you try this? But she wouldn't be like, this is the dumbest description ever. Like, that's not helpful, right? So sometimes you have to be willing to go through a couple of different critique people before you give somebody your heart, I guess, so to speak, kind of like relationship. But we do in our Discord server have a connections channel. And also if you join Publish and Thrive, you can join a mastermind group, which has been helpful because some people have formed critique groups through there. But yeah, you can come into Discord anytime and say, hey, here's what I write. Does anybody want to switch chapters? And you could at least try to work with them. How do I balance chronic headaches with writing? I write, but I've been sick every day with migraines for 18 months. Gosh, that is so hard. I'm so sorry you're going through that, especially with migraines. George used to have migraines so bad, and he doesn't get them anymore. And mostly it's because of changes with diet, but I know everybody is different. So, you know, if it's something you can't find a solution for, obviously, if you've been dealing with it, obviously keep looking for solutions and trying things. But I think that for some of it, you have to just give yourself grace and say, is this a writing day or is this not a writing day? Another thing that can be helpful is if you track it. I don't know if you're doing this already, but just say, okay, for the month of May, I'm going to track how many days I was actually able to write and follow through and how many days I had migraines. And if it's every single day, what times of day do you struggle most? Or can you identify like pockets of time that you're not having migraines? So for example, if you're like, I never get a migraine until afternoon, see if you can write first thing in the morning or get up early or anything like that. Also seeing if there's other, like once you start tracking, are there factors that are adding to the severity of the migraines? Like if you didn't get enough good sleep the night before, if you're not drinking enough water, and seeing if you can mitigate those chronic headaches. But it's very difficult, I know, to be creative when you're not feeling well. It's hard to even watch TV or anything when you have a headache because it's just painful and it takes all of your concentration. So trying to plan around, if you could say how many like sprints that you could do on an average day before you ended up having to stop, or if you can identify pockets of time when you almost never have a migraine, that can be helpful. I don't know if any of that is helpful. It kind of depends on your situation. I love playing in InDesign. Did you do any courses other than the Adobe ones? I literally just got in and taught myself how to do it. And then if I had any questions, I would just Google, like, how do I do XYZ in Adobe? I didn't take any official courses on it. All right, let's see. Having recently read book 1 and 2, it's like a peek at past Sarah. It really is. It really is. And Jess, if you read Disappearance of Vanessa Shaw, you're going to be like, this is a different writer, because it's so different. It's so different. Better, hopefully, but there's still something good about those old books too. Courtney says, how to not feel guilty about having other passions outside of writing. I know I could be a better writer if I spent all my time writing, but I have other passions I'm chasing too. This is so relatable, because I have felt this way too, of like feeling guilty that I'm spending time on heart breathings or following my own passion. But I will say this, of like, we as a society have started lifting up this idea of like one niche, one thing that you do. Like, even just with my Heart Breathings YouTube channel, so many people in the beginning were like, loved your planning stuff, and so many people loved the writing stuff. But then I had other like people saying, if you need to focus on one or the other, you can't do both. But I have just always been a multi-passionate person, and if I were to focus only on one thing, I would be so unhappy that none of my work would be any good, right? If all I could be was a writer and I couldn't be anything besides that, I wouldn't be a good writer. So just trusting yourself to say, following all my different passions makes me a better writer. And so therefore there's no guilt, because all the times that I spend exploring all my other creativity refills my well, so that I have something left to give to my writing. And there's no guilt about that. It's just that we've become a society where it's like that one niche and the race to the top as fast as you can is like lauded as the best way to do it. But it's just, it's BS. It's not true. Vanessa, hey, would a person hire a developmental story editor when they have an unfinished manuscript? So often developmental editors are for before you have a finished manuscript. Developmental, it kind of depends, and it depends on the editor themselves, but a lot of times developmental edits come before the book is done, because they're going to help you decide the plot, determine your character arcs, determine what's happening in the story. How do I take this premise or this idea I have and make it into a plot? And they'll help you with that kind of thing. Whereas a copy editor needs a finished manuscript. They need words that are mostly completed in order to go through line by line and tell you what's right or wrong. But a developmental editor is somebody who takes your ideas and helps you create a story out of that. They won't help you write it, but they'll help you plot it, and with consistency and things like that. So it kind of depends in terms of who you're working with. But usually if you find someone on their website, they're going to tell you what stage they want you to be in. And if they don't, then you can email them and say, how far along do I need to be before? But I've been working with the Fairy Plot Mother. Highly recommend her. Her name is Becca Mysore, and she's a developmental editor. And we've been working together every single week to go back and forth with ideas. And she doesn't tell me how to write the story. She just becomes a sounding board for, oh, this would be cool. Well, what about this? What about this? And I think that has been extremely helpful. This is the first developmental editor I have ever worked with before. Let's see. Angela, thank you. You told me that multiple times, that you watched it several times, and that means a lot. Thank you so much. I love Becca Syme too. She's incredible. If you have not ever followed her, I highly recommend it. Thank you, Taryn. Am I this far behind? It's like 15 minutes ago. We're not going to get to all the questions. Brittany, hey, I've always been curious. Do you archive your HB90 planners or throw them out when you finish the quarter? I mostly throw them out. I recycle them, unless they have like some things can be recycled, some things can't because they have too much stickers or washi tape on them. But I don't tend to keep them all. Sometimes I will keep the goal pages and whether or not I hit it, but also because I usually have some kind of Instagram or YouTube content about how the quarter went. But there are so many people inside the HB90 class that have kept all their planners that then when I look back at it, I'm like, oh, I should have kept them all. But I don't keep them. I don't keep them all. I saw that Writer MBA is being dissolved, so we have to figure out a new way to have HardyCon. I know, I saw that too, and it was a complete surprise to me that they were dissolving, and I was very sad about it. But I do have some other ideas about how we're going to do HardyCon, so stay tuned. Barbara adds in, InkersCon is wonderful. I've been going virtually, and so much great information. So yeah, if you guys want to go to InkersCon, I will link to it in my video coming up. Like I said, I will either edit it today or tomorrow morning, and you'll have that code Sarah25, or you can probably just Google InkersCon 2025 and you'll find it there too as well. Any advice for getting unstuck with writing? So yes, and that's going to be part of this whole new series that I'm doing over on Heartbreathing. So it's coming. It's coming. Did you put your retreat on YouTube Shorts, members only? Because I think I saw it. I did. Also, if you are part of the BCS and you're a guardian or curator, second or third tier, you guys just got the Inner Demons audiobook before everybody else. So for the regular public, book 2 will be coming out in audio later this month, but you guys get the early copy. So go grab that. It's only good until the end of the month. So grab it now if you can. Okay, let's see. Oh my gosh. Where did you hear that about Writer MBA? They sent out some emails yesterday kind of explaining why they're dissolving their partnership. And it's, I think, honestly, anyone who's into astrology or human design or the new paradigm or whatever will be like, saw this coming, but we don't have time to get into it too much. But part of what people say about the new paradigm, if you haven't heard about this, is that we're going to see a lot of organizations start to fold and things starting to move into more of the individual rather than like big corporations. And I think we're starting to see that more and more, that people are starting to change their business model. They're starting to change how they want to do things. And I know for me, I've hit a point where I'm like, I'm going to start doing things a little differently moving forward. Like I'm not going to run as many courses, just other things like that. And I was just talking to my neighbor who's a 7-figure jewelry brand. And she was like, you know what? I'm going to stop doing my subscription model and I'm going to start only doing this one piece of my business. I feel like there's a lot of people in business, especially entrepreneurs, that are kind of changing the way they're doing things. So it's kind of interesting. Hey, Candace, do you have any advice on getting past or making progress in spite of imposter syndrome? So I love that these are the questions coming up, because this is, it lets me know that the series that I'm going to be doing about finishing your novel and following through is going to help a lot of people, because this is exactly the kind of stuff we're going to talk about: how to get unstuck, how to keep going even when you want to quit, how to keep stick with one story all the way through to the end, and also how to keep going when you feel like it's no good or you're not doing a good job with it. But I think that it's like Becca Syme always says, imposters don't get imposter syndrome. So you can know that if you're feeling imposter syndrome, that you're not actually an imposter. But that often comes from just the vulnerability of creating art, right? Any type of art, any type of video, any type of content creation that we do that we're going to put out for other people to see is a vulnerable thing. And it is very, very like bearing your soul to say, here's something I made. What do you think of it? Even just being on YouTube, that it's like when I first got started, I had a massive imposter syndrome and didn't start for years because I kept thinking, I don't know about putting my face on the internet. What if people don't like my face? What if people don't like my voice? What if people don't like my fingers that have tattoos that are coming off? And there were people who didn't like my face and said nasty things, but there's also this entire community of people that love me, that I love back, and it has enriched my life in a million ways. And so I think the biggest advice is to understand that it is totally normal and natural when you're doing something vulnerable, that you're putting your heart or some piece of something you created or something you care deeply about on the internet for other people to judge, that it is naturally going to feel like, I'm not good enough. There's going to be criticism. What if people don't like it? That's normal and natural. And every single person who puts stuff on the internet feels that way, or puts things out even before the internet. It's just the natural way of being. And it does not mean because you feel that way that it's valid. Like, it doesn't mean that you're not good enough. And I can guarantee the fact that you actually care enough to feel nervous means that you're very good at what you do, because it's just a sign that we are putting our best work out there and we're scared that it won't be loved the way that we love it. But every single time you put yourself out there is going to feel vulnerable, but it's also going to be so rewarding. So just know that it's not unusual, and it would be more unusual if you didn't feel that way. So just keep believing in yourself. And like I said, see if you can find other people to encourage you, like really lean into the people that love and encourage the things that you're creating. How do you plan a character's growth arc after book one? This is actually a really good question that I feel like would make a good series too. Because when I started writing a series, it's like any book out there about character arcs or about series arcs or books, plotting, they just talk about book one. And so many of the people that have written those books have only ever written standalone books or things that kind of have static character arcs. And so there's not really a ton of information out there about how to do it, other than like the massive amount of information comes from other books that people have written. And I think that one of the big things about character arc that I decided early on I don't like about some books is like when you would have, let's say, a character who's dealing with, they're too impulsive and they're always making risky choices and it puts them in danger. If they deal with that and they grow past it in book one, that can't also be the thing that they're struggling with in book two. So when we're taught as authors to think about the wound or the ghost or the thing that made a character believe the lie about themselves that they believe, once they've worked through that in one small way, they can't be working through that again in book two, or else they didn't actually overcome it. And that was one of my big pet peeves about trilogies and stuff. Would be like, well, didn't she overcome that in book one? Why are we still there again in book two? And it just started to make me want to like bang my head against a desk. And so I think one of the biggest things about planning those future character arcs is thinking, let's say if your character is like one of Harper's themes is learning is trust, right? We have a theme about Harper through all 11 books about trust. And it could be that in book one, she's dealing with trusting her own decisions versus what she wants versus what she needs, right? Like, what's right? Can I trust myself to make the right decision? But later, it's also about, can I trust this person, right? Like, there's a lot of areas in twists and turns throughout Harper's life where she's having to deal with this theme of trust, but she's dealing with it in different ways, trusting herself, trusting other people, trusting her instincts, trusting herself as a leader. And so it's like, even if you're carrying that theme of trust in terms of her arc, it needs to look different in every book so that you're always raising the stakes in terms of like really thinking through, what has this character been through and who are they now? And how can I take what they've learned now and not go back to those old wounds, but instead continue to build on who they've already become. But that could be a whole series talking about character arcs there as well. Okay. I don't know how we're going to go. How do I find Becca Syme's course? So Becca has multiple courses. She has one called Write Better Faster and one called Strengths for Authors. And you can kind of start in either one. I can't remember which one she recommends most, but I think that you can go to Better Faster Academy, Write Better Faster Academy, and just Google that and you'll find her. Oh, you'll Google it. Okay, got it. I love it. Oh no, your mastermind group didn't work out. Nobody responded. Yeah, try again. And if you want, I can try, like, if you want to email me and I can try emailing or reaching out to those people again, we can kind of see. It can be good to be honest with yourself about what would actually be helpful in a critique partner before you go looking for one so that you can let them know what you need from them. That is so smart too. Hey, Diane, out of the loop, all these new faces. I know we have so many amazing new people here. You mentioned you're taking a step back with courses. Will you be running Publish this summer? Yes, I will. So I'm the only thing so far that I'm cutting out is June's HB90 round. There'll still be a Q3 planner. There might still be a pre-recorded kickoff call or something like that, but I will not be opening enrollment for HB90 in June. Haven't decided yet if I'm going to do coffee chats, but we will not be home all summer. I'm not going to go too deep into what we're doing this summer because it's just going to be a fun family tour. But I don't know yet exactly if I'll do coffee chats or not. So I'll keep you guys updated on that. And I will be sharing some behind the scenes stuff to Broken Chapter Society, just since that's a kind of a smaller, more private group. But for the most part, there will still be videos going up on heart breathings, but they'll be pre-recorded, but no HB90 in June. But there will be in July. We will launch towards the end of the month, Publish and Thrive, like normal. So I never received anything about a mastermind group. Nope, we're not still working on it. Those went out a month ago. So you did receive it if you signed up. So you got to go looking for it. All those went out a month ago. You mentioned that's the same one. Same question. Bad critiques from RWA back in the day. Yeah, it can be really tough to not find the right group. Cherry girl. Hey, Marie, how are you? How do you feel ending SDS? Do you have an idea of your next series? I do. There's sort of multiple things on my list for myself. Is I have an idea for yet another spinoff of another character from SDS to move on forward. And I haven't fully committed to it because I'm going to wait and see how this feels to write Shadow Games and then the final book. I'm excited for it. There's also part of me that's like, maybe I just start a whole new big world. I haven't decided, but I have an idea for another spinoff. So it could be part of it. I don't know. I'm definitely not going to get to all of the questions. And I wanted to, I love that you guys are also answering things and I'm like reading these like so far out. Okay. What is your favorite? So from Discord, what is your favorite of your writings from MK Main Knitter? I don't think I answered this before, but I think my favorite of my writings is always the book I just finished because I feel like it's always the freshest thing that I'm proud of. So Vanessa Shaw right now is kind of one of my favorites of my writings, but I think if we talk about one of my favorites of something that's finished, it's Sacrifice Me. Like I feel like the ending of the Sacrifice Me series is one of the best things I've ever written, but I'm also really excited for Shadow Games, but it's kind of always changing and shifting. So we'll see. Allie said, do you still use your Poketo planners? I got that project planner maybe a year and a half ago based on your rec, and I'm almost ready to dive in and start using it. I'm so excited. I haven't been using them because once I started using it and then I was working with Renee, it turned out that we really needed to get it all into like Asana and start working on it there. And so it just felt like I was doing double the work trying to update the planner and update the project management software. So it just didn't work out. But now I'm not working with Renee anymore. And I'm working with Mel Jolly as my project manager, and she works in Basecamp. And then my VA team works in Asana. So I feel like, and then I'm working with Inkfluence for a Kickstarter. We'll have 2 Kickstarters coming this year. So some very exciting stuff. And they use Monday. So I'm just like, everybody uses different software. I need everybody to be working in the same thing, but I haven't been using those planners, but I actually was just looking for them yesterday. I was like, I need to find that Poketo planner because I want to start planning out some of my Project Phoenix stuff that I had started working on before. So Kickstarter, I'm so excited. So my first Kickstarter, you guys, is coming in July. It's launching on July 8th. So be on the lookout. And it is not for a book. It is for the HB90 planner. So I am very excited to have a printed planner coming, and I already have the cover art. We've been working on the interior files. It has been so good. So, so good. So be on the lookout for that. If you've been wanting a printed coiled like HB90 planner with accessories and fun extras, we are going all out. So be on the lookout for that in July. And there'll be lots of surprises coming along with it. So it has been super, super fun. There will also be one coming in October. So we'll talk about that more coming later. All right. Final question. Kat said, when you get hit by a sudden semi-tragic event and you have a great event coming up, how do you take the time to reset and reflect on your life to hopefully make a new plan for the quarter? I'm struggling with my plan for Q2, knowing this month will be hectic in the second half and I need the reflection time, but how? Two things. One, journaling. Like journaling has saved my life so many times that I can't even count them. Like getting in, because when you're just trying to think through your thoughts without any like structure to it, it can be really difficult to actually reflect. And I find that putting hand to paper and actually like writing down my thoughts is one of the best things, especially when you're talking about reflection. It's just asking yourself, how do I feel right now? Getting in touch with your feelings. And the other piece of it is having somebody that you trust that you can talk through it with, because that is one of the best ways to just reflect and work through something that has been difficult, is to talk to somebody that is kind and understanding. So we made it through, adding to July's budget. Woo woo. There may be some bonus things in there for Broken Chapter Society members too. So be on the lookout for that. And yes, they will be available internationally, but just the shipping will be more expensive, obviously. But I will make them available internationally because I know we have a big international audience. And there will be a Sunday start and a Monday start version, or a Sunday start mixed start. There will not be a pure Sunday start because we just can't, there won't be enough people that would want that, but there will be a Monday start and a mixed start. So lots of fun stuff happening. All right, you guys, that is our coffee chat. This was kind of fun to just have a random questions and chat about goals and other things like that. So thanks for being here. Hopefully you had a good time and got all of your questions. Hey, Victoria, your questions answered and everything. I just love hanging out with you guys on Fridays. Always brightens my day. And it was storming, but now it's just kind of overcast, but not storming. So you guys made the rain go away, and hopefully it's going to be a good weekend. So moving on to May, I will have a kind of a new video going up in maybe this afternoon or tomorrow, kind of talking about my May goals and talking about InkersCon and things like that. Will you have a non-spiral book for the HB90 planner? Not this time, because with a Kickstarter, you can only offer so many options. You can't give people like 50 options or you wouldn't be able to afford to produce it. So for this time, it will just be the coil option. But there's always a non-spiral if you're willing to print it yourself, right? Take my money. Yay. Thank you, Taryn. You're so sweet and kind. Thank you for that. All right, you guys, that is it. If you are part of the top 2 tiers of the Broken Chapter, make sure you hit the posts or membership tab to grab your free audiobook of Inner Demons. And if you missed Beautiful Demons, the first book, there's a link to get that too. So you can get first 2 audiobooks. If you enjoyed the audiobook so far and you're not in the Broken Chapter Society, those are coming soon. The first book's already available, second book coming soon. And yeah, I will see you guys next weekend for some more May chats. If you have any ideas about things that you want to talk about on coffee chats, feel free to send those through as well or post them in the comments. And I hope you guys have a great weekend. All right. All my love to you, and I will see you next time. Bye.